I was born in Manila, and I was the youngest of 3 children. I have an older brother and an older sister. And growing up, we just had a lot of fun together. We had a lot of pets. At one point, we had 10 cats. So I've always loved animals. My parents both worked as journalists. So when I was in 5th grade, they told me they had been reassigned to a bureau in Jakarta, Indonesia. And at that point, my brother and my sister were older. My sister was already married. So it was just me that went with them because I was the youngest. So I went there the year between 5th and 6th grade. So I went from being a youngest child with 2 siblings and big family to being something like an only child, which was kind of a hard transition at first. I remember missing my brother and sister a lot and having pets. I didn't have any pets when we first came, and I remember that was kind of sad. So I went from a typical Filipino Catholic school from 5th grade to an American-style middle school and high school system, and there are a lot of international students there from all over the world, but a lot of my classmates were American. It didn't take long for me to feel like I was kind of in this space of being in between. I would live in Indonesia, but we were visitors there, and then when I would go back to Manila, it wouldn't be the same. You know, so much would change in between when we were living somewhere else. So after a while, it just didn't feel like either place was 100% home. Because I was in that American school system, and my guidance counselor in high school was from Minnesota, he just recommended that the Midwest was a really good place. And so I wasn't able to do any college visits like most people do, but I got that big Fisk Guide to Colleges book, and I remember just paging through every college and trying to imagine myself having a life there. I think I was mostly excited. My parents were, I'm sure they were devastated, but I was pretty excited to start this new life here. And I remember being cold. I had never seen snow before, so I still remember that first fall. It was, I think, end of October. I had a test to take for one of my classes in the morning, and I went into the room. I took the test, so I was pretty focused on the test, so I spent the whole time writing without looking up. And when it was time to hand the test in to my professor, she pointed out the window and said, "Look, it's snowing." And that was my first time ever seeing snow. Obviously, I'm far away from my family, which has been difficult. But we've come up with our own ways of staying connected. Obviously, Facebook and Skype are wonderful things to stay in touch. In fact, so growing up, we had this tradition of sitting in a circle around the Christmas tree every Christmas morning, and that's when we would pass our presents around. And so every Christmas morning, with the time difference, it's a different time of day here, but every Christmas morning there, we hook up the Skype, and they actually set a place for me in the circle on the laptop, still looking through the presents. So that's a nice way we stay connected. I think coming here to start a life, I grew up in a very close family, so it was difficult to leave them. And also I just had to learn a whole new set of life skills. I feel like I grew up here. I had never really done my own laundry. I didn't have a driver's license. I just learned to drive 4 years ago. For the last 4 years, I've been a teacher at St. Paul Academy and Summit School. I teach in the lower school, so I teach 1st and 2nd grade students, so very young children. One thing that was important to me during the time that I was getting my naturalization process figured out was I wanted to be open with them about it. And so my students helped quiz me on those civics questions, and I feel like they were just as excited about the process as I was. So on the day of my naturalization ceremony, I couldn't be at school, but the next day I came back and they had written me congratulation notes with American flags and bald eagles, and on the inside every child had written what they think the best part of being a U.S. citizen is. And I thought that was very sweet, and I still have them. I think as a teacher, especially at such a young age, you're not just there to teach them academics, you're also a role model. So it was always important to me that I modeled that openness about my story so that they would always feel empowered to share their story as well.